So I have the unique opportunity to have a chat with you after a long day, after you've had a delicious, full meal. All right, we'll have to see how this one turns out. So Don Lee and I were talking a little while ago, and he said, hey, Jim, I was wondering if you could come over and give a presentation. I said, fantastic. I said, Don Lee, what should I talk about? He said, whatever you'd like to talk about. I said, really? All right. I said, well, then what I'm going to talk about is how you can take $1,000, invest it in real estate, and turn it into over $1 million in less than 6 months. And Don Lee said, fantastic. He said, I want to know how to do that. And I said, well, I'd like to know how to do that too. I don't actually know how to do that. He said, well, we'll have to take something else. He said, okay. So we thought about it a little bit, and we've got a mixed group here tonight, right? We've got people at all different stages of their careers. But we all share a common bond. And what that common bond is that we know stuff. We have ideas in our head. We're smart people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Now, these great ideas are fantastic, and they're good to have in your head, but they don't do the world any good if they stay here, right? You've got to get the ideas from there out to here, correct? Because you want to share them with people, right? You're a caring, giving person. You want to share your ideas with other people, whether or not they want to hear it, correct? All right, so no matter where you are in your career, whether you're at the beginning, whether you're in the middle of it, or whether you're towards the tail end of it, you still have good ideas that you can share. So what Don Lee and I said, well, maybe we should talk about the best way to get the ideas from here out to a group of people. That sound like a fair way to spend a little bit of time?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to say no boring presentation. Quick question. Have you ever sat through a boring presentation in your life?
Yeah, lots of them.
Yeah. So I don't have to explain to you what a boring presentation is. You know what it looks like, right? If I showed you 2 presentations, you could tell me which one was more boring, correct? All right. So what we want to do at the end of tonight's presentation, hopefully, you'll never give another boring presentation. If you're asked to give a presentation, it will be exciting, it will be dynamic. People would want to show up for it. That sound like a fair deal? Yep. I have a small pill, if you'll take it. No, okay, no, there's no pill. All right. So let's see. Oh, there we go. So, I have a fantastic presentation I'm going to share with you. It's chock full of information. In fact, it wasn't quite big enough, so I had to stuff more information into it. But all I'm going to promise you is one thing. I guarantee you from my presentation tonight, you're going to get one thing out of it. If you walked out of here tonight knowing one thing that you didn't know before, would it be fair to say that your time was well spent?
Yes.
Okay. So that means if you walked out of here with 2 things that you didn't know before, you would have gotten more than you anticipated, right?
Yes.
In fact, 100% more, right? Well, okay, I'm not promising that, guys. I'm only promising you one thing, okay? Maybe you get 2, 3, or 4, but that's up to you. I'm only saying you're going to get 1. All right. So where should we start this? I know where to start. Stories are always a good place to start. So I'm of the age, which means I'm old, where every year I need to go to the doctor. Okay, and I go. It's the same thing every year. I go to the doctor. I say, hey, I'm here for a physical. Okay, doctor says, fantastic. Checks me out, and it takes like 10, 15 minutes. He says, you're fine. Get out of here. Woohoo! And I'm out of there. Bam. About 3 years ago, my doctor forgot his role in this annual play. I showed up, and the little stethoscope thing? So he's listening, and he's taking too long. This is supposed to take like a minute and be done with it. He's listening. Finally, he says, I'm hearing something a little bit off, but I'm not sure what it is. Look, I'm just going to send you to a heart specialist. He'll tell you what the story is. Probably not a big deal. Okay, fine, let's do that then. So his office set up an appointment with a cardiologist for me to go to later on that day. Kids, here's a little lesson. Cardiologists are really hard to get an appointment with. If you get an appointment with a cardiologist on the same day that you went to your doctor, something's really wrong. Didn't know that? Oh, well, okay, great, I'll go see him. Fine. Show up to the cardiologist, bam, he follows up in the door, he comes in, hooks me up to the strange looking machine, ching, 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 does a bunch of measurements. He looks at you and goes, wow, you got an irregular heartbeat. You know, that can lead to catastrophic heart failure. No, I don't do that. I got to send you to another doctor. Here's some pamphlets. Bam, he was gone. Okay? This has officially become the worst day ever. Thank you very much. Here's an interesting learning experience. You get nothing else out of my speech. If you become a doctor, you make a lot of money. If you become a cardiologist, you make a lot more money. Stay with me, stay with me. If you become an electrocardiologist, you make the maximum amount of money. So I went and saw the electrocardiologist, who was a doctor who deals with the electrical properties of the heart. He came in and he had like a little model of the heart. It was the coolest thing in the world. He said, hey, so this is like your heart. Here's what's going on with you. You got some extra cells. They set up your own little electrical substation. Beep, beep, beep. They're sending off some signals. It's screwing up your heartbeat. No big deal. I deal with this all the time. I'll fix this for you. Best day ever. This is very cool stuff. So, the purpose of this story is I had two doctors who had exactly the same information, and they communicated with me. The cardiologist was the worst communicator in the world. Made me feel terrible. The electrocardiologist, who was paid a lot more, was a fantastic communicator. He explained to me what the situation was. He explained to me what the treatment options were, and he helped me choose the right option for me. By the way, he got it all fixed. I'm 100% today. So, you're in the same situation the next time you're asked to give a presentation. You've got a ton of information, and you've got a choice in how you want to give that information off to people. You can do a really good job. Share with them all the information, share with them the background and the information, make sure that they understand what you're telling them, or you can just sort of throw it at them and go, hey, good luck with that, see you, bye-bye, right? So I want you to become an electrocardiologist. I do not want you to become a cardiologist. All right, someday you will have a job. If you've already had a job, someday you'll have somebody come to you and ask for you for the information that's in your head. And you'll be all proud of yourself, because you'll be going like, I'm really important. But are you that important? Are you that valuable? Are you going to be able to communicate the ideas that are in your head to the people who are out there? We all think we can, but let me ask you a quick question here. Is it possible that when you're asked to give a presentation, you take everything that you know and you dump it into the presentation and give it to the audience and say, here you go? Should there be a little beeping sound as you back up and unload your presentation on them? Look, we're engineers. We like to do this, right? I've read 12 textbooks on the subject, and I'm going to give them all to you in the next 30 minutes. Oh, no. So I got to talk really fast. We like to share a little bit too much sometimes. Do you think our audience really wants us to dump all that stuff on them? Is that why they showed up to listen to our presentation? Absolutely not. They're there to learn, and it's our responsibility to take in all the data, all the knowledge, and to process it for our audience. It's not just to regurgitate what we happen to know. It's with much shame that I show you this next slide. This is an actual slide that I was presenting probably in the early 90s. It's pretty bad. I'm sorry about this. Now, in all honesty, I gotta be straight with you here. There's a reason for this. You kids won't understand this, but you old people will. So back in the day, before they had these fancy in-focus projection systems, whenever we created a slide, we had to print them out on a piece of plastic. Call them vellums. Remember vellums, guys? Yeah. Now, in an average office, a vellum was like gold. So when you got ready to do the presentation, a secretary, remember secretaries, would say to you, how many slides are you going to need? And you'd say, oh, 10, probably about 10. And they would give you 10 sheets of gold to print your slide on. And if it turns out that you needed 11, uh-oh, because you're going to have to go back and ask for more. And you never go back and ask for more, okay? So what you do instead is you pack as much as you can onto your 10 sheets, because that's all you're going to get. So I have a little bit of an excuse. Now, I would still be doing presentations like this. I like to call this an engineering presentation, by the way. Guess why? If it wasn't for Dan. Now, I was working at a little startup, and we had one salesperson. who was far better than all of the other salespeople. Coincidentally, his name was Dan. Now, the management knew that he was the best salesperson we had. And they said, Jim, here's what we want you to do. Because of your senior status in the corporation, Jim, we want you to follow Dan around with the camera. See how I'm holding it? Because it's old school. With the big cameras. You remember the big cameras, right? We want you to videotape Dan when he's giving presentations to customers. Okay? We want to figure out what the heck he's doing that's making him so successful. So for like the next month, I went to customer after customer after customer, and I videotaped Dan while he was giving his presentations. I hate to say it, they just looked like presentations to me. I didn't quite get it. We'd equipped him with this big stack of technical slides. He'd go through the slides, and poof, at the end, that was that. It wasn't until I sat down with all of these videotapes and started going through them, trying to pull them together in something that we could give out to the other salespeople, that I made the most amazing breakthrough discovery. During his presentations, Dan was going through the slides, click, click, click. But he wasn't talking about the slides at all. He was talking about a lot of other things, and the slides were up there, but he wasn't talking about them. He was telling stories, he was connecting with the audience, he was sharing insights, and the slides were flipping by, but he was not using the slides. When I had this realization, it was like, wow, he's really good, but the slides aren't the secret to his magic. At that point in time, I decided to watch very carefully what Dan was doing. I was going to learn from Dan how to be a good communicator. Now, during the rest of my career, I've bumped into a lot of other Dans, and from each one of them, I've learned different techniques, different secrets for being an effective communicator. Now, I've taken all of those, I'm going to share them with you tonight. This is my daughter. Now, the reason I show you a picture of my daughter tonight is to share with you a little insight that you may or may not be aware of. The audiences that you're presenting to are changing. They're not getting older, my friends. They're getting younger. Okay, so it was like 2 Christmases ago, my wife came to me and said, hey, it's time for your daughter to get a cell phone. She doesn't play sports, she doesn't do band. Ugh, she doesn't need a cell phone. My wife said, stop. It's social. I'm an engineer. A cell phone is a communication device. You use it to communicate, right? She said, no, not if you're a 13-year-old girl. Get her a cell phone. Okay, so I did. So it was about a year ago, I was taking a look at my cell phone bill. I was just like, hey, I wonder how many text messages my 13-year-old daughter has sent in a month. Would any of you like to guess?
3,000.
2,000 is a good start, too small. Want to keep going? Another guess, another guess.
5.
5's good, still too low.
Oh, what?
Okay, you're getting closer, but still not there. Okay, a little bit too high. Let's see what we got here. 9,471 in a month! So here's the interesting part about this story, my friends. She doesn't have 24 hours to send those. I'm a reasonably good parent. So the way it works is she gets up in the morning completely sleepy because she's a teenager. She trudges off to school. Her school has one of those no cell phone policies, so you can't use it during the course of the day. She comes home, she's got homework to do. Then as a concerned parent, I try to get her off to bed as quickly as possible. She does not have that many windows of time during the day that she can actually send a cell phone message. Quick back of the envelope calculations has told me when she has an opportunity, she needs to be sending a text message every 1 minute and 22 seconds. An interesting thing is I took a look at her cell phone one time to find out what kind of messages she was sending. Now, when you and I send us a text message, if we indeed we do, we send like a little mini email, right? Hey, I'll be picking you up at 5 o'clock. Wait for me behind the building. You know, something like that, right? She sent garbage. Ha! No. Really? They're not even full messages, and sometimes they're not even spelled correctly. That's how she gets up to 9,000 in a month, my friends. The reason I bring this up is that she's still a little bit young, but she's probably a lot closer in age to the audiences that you're going to be presenting to than the old people. And what that means is that her short span of attention is what you're going to have to be dealing with when you give your next presentation. You can't be boring anymore. What does your audience have? It's called the iPhone 5. Have you seen that Angry Birds game? Man, is it hard! I've been working on that thing forever. If you're giving a boring speech, I'm working on level 20 of Angry Birds because I'm going to beat that level. I don't really care what you're saying because this is Angry Birds and it's in color and it's in my hand and what you're doing is boring. Got it? You're competing against Angry Birds. Okay, next time you give a speech, the very first thing you have to figure out is what kind of speech do you want to give? Good news, you've got 4 choices. The first one is the informative speech. And we know what an informative speech is. Hey, if you've been to college, you know what an informative speech is. A smart, bright person up there who has knowledge that you would like to have. That smart, bright person is going to share the knowledge with you. You're going to sit there and you're going to drink it in and perhaps write it down. And then you will be smarter because they shared with you. The second type is the demonstrative speech. Okay? This is where somebody knows how to do something. They want to convince you to do something. So they're going to show you how they do it. Maybe something having to do with optics. Okay? And because they do it, it convinces you to do something or take some action. The third type is the persuasive speech, also known as the motivational speaker. This person has all the information that you have, but they see the world in a particular type of way. And they're going to share with you the way they see the world in order to convince you to follow them or to do what they want you to do. And the fourth type of speaker is the entertaining speaker. And look, they're just up there to get you to laugh, to smile, to be happy. And to be happy that you've heard their speech when you're done. So the question I have for you, next time you give a speech, what type of speaker do you want to be? I'd like to be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Well, in all honesty, as technical presenters, that's exactly right. What we probably want to do here, most of our speeches have a lot of informative content, right? But that's not the whole speech. There's more to it than that. There's probably some persuasive component to it. Maybe, more often than not, you want money. There's great things I can do. Hey, could you fund me, maybe? Or give me lab space? Or give me time, maybe time to do it, please, something like that. But that's not it either. There's more to it. Maybe there's some sort of demonstration you have to do of a software package, of a technique, of a new way of thinking. That's fine. And that would sort of complete the circle. But you know, if you're competing for my time, this is a little dry. So you need to add just a little something extra. Maybe just a little bit of humor somewhere in there. Just a little bit. Not the whole thing, right? This type of speech would be a good speech for you to give. And you need to understand that it's not just one type of speech that you're giving, but really a mix of several different techniques. Now, I've got some information I'm going to pass on to you. But I'm concerned, people with a full belly, end of the day, whether or not you're going to remember what I'm going to share with you. And it's so valuable that I need to make sure that this lodges in your brain forever. So do me a favor and stand up, please. Everybody stand up. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you introduce you to it. You don't have to introduce yourself to the person sitting next to you. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you a story. I need you to mentally picture the story as I tell you. When I get done, I'm going to double check to see if you've memorized it. So yes, this is a test. Yes, you will be graded on it. So picture what I'm doing in your head. I'm holding a large binder in my hand. Can you see it? What color is the binder? It's blue, by the way. I'm holding it in my hand. On the front of it, it says plan. Look down at your feet. You're not wearing any shoes. Okay, take the big heavy binder and I'm dropping it on your feet. Ow! That hurt a lot. Now I'm looking at your knees. I've changed your knees. I put this little organizer. You know those cheap little plastic organizer drawers? You know, they work in your knee now. So it's cool. I mean, it's got to be really painful. But you can pull it out of your knee and you can store like paper clips, rubber bands, stuff like that. You can organize things using your knee. Now, I want you to picture the table that you had in your house when you were growing up, where you ate breakfast and where you ate lunch and where you ate dinner. What we've done is we've cut a circle out of that table from your childhood, and now you're standing in the middle of it. It's actually attached to you. So wherever you walk, that table goes with you. How handy is that? Whenever you want to create something now, you're going to be able to do it because you've got that table there. How are you going to get through the door? How are you going to use the bathroom? I have no idea whatsoever. But it's a cool idea no matter what. Now, the next thing that you feel is you feel a sharp pain on your back. You're like, wow, what's going on there? You turn just a little bit to look at your back, and what you see is little NFL players are on your back, and they're walking around. Apparently, they're wearing cleats, which is very, very uncomfortable, by the way. They seem to be angry. They seem to be demonstrating. They're holding strike signs, and they're walking in circles. I don't know, they're out on strike or something like that. But most importantly, they're doing it on your back, and that's really, really uncomfortable. After that, I'm looking at your shoulders. Your shoulders have red curtains on them. You can't actually see behind the red curtains, but if you're really quiet for just a moment, you can actually hear actors behind the curtains, and it sounds like they're rehearsing to put on a show. It's probably going to be a pretty good show. I'm not sure how you're going to see it because it's on your shoulders, but we'll worry about that. Now, I want you to think about the tip of your nose. Here you go, right tip of your nose. There is it's a present. A present is stuck to the end of your nose. Probably super glued. Good news, it's like a little ring or something. It's a very small box, but it's wrapped really nicely. It's got like a big bow on it. You know what's really annoying about that? You know, whenever you have something on your nose, like your eyes are instantly attracted, it's really a pain in the butt. But it's stuck to the end of your nose. Last image. You look up at the ceiling, you see that there's a hole cut in the ceiling. And now that hole, coins, change. Change is raining down on you. Oh, it's dimes, it's nickels, it's pennies, it's quarters. You know, it's really the nickels and the quarters that hurt the most. Those dimes, not so bad. But they're pouring down on you. They're hitting the shoulders, and they're starting to pile up in a puddle around you. One more time. Let's make sure you got that. Binder, no shoes. Drop it. Ow, that really hurts. Your knees I've replaced with a little cheap pull-out organizer, right? You're standing in the middle of the table from your childhood, remember? So now you can create things wherever you go. On your back, we've got what? NFL players are running around. They're demonstrating. They seem to be very angry about something. On your shoulders, what do we have? We've got the little red curtains, and behind that sounds like actors are getting ready to rehearse a play that they're going to put on. On the tip of your nose, we have a present stuck there, and they cut a hole in the ceiling, and change is raining down on you. Sit down. Now, you may laugh at me. You may say, that is the silliest story I have ever heard in my entire life. I have no idea why you shared that with me. I don't know why you made me stand up. But here's the freaky thing, guys. That story's stuck in your brain now forever. I can bump into you in the street a year from now and say, hey, who's walking around on your back? And you would say, oh, NFL players, and they're demonstrating. Ha ha ha. I'm in your brain, I'm in your brain. But why? Why did we do that? There had to be a reason, right? Well, good news. I'd like to present to you the Clear Blue presentation system. So look, when it's time to give a presentation, your biggest challenge is where to start, what to do, and how to actually give the presentation. And it turns out there's a whole bunch of different things that you have to do, which I've laid out for you here. And if we had a good 8 to 16 hours, we could go over each and every step in a great deal of detail, and you would become an expert presenter. We don't have the time, so we're going to have to do something different. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim it down to a simple 7-step process. Now you stay with me. You let me know if this seems in any way familiar to you. Step number 1 is what? What was that?
Binder.
Wait, I think I can do this. Hang on. What would step number 2 be? Think about your knees. Oh, very good. Step number 3? Create. Step number 4? Demonstrate. Step number 5?
Rehearsal.
Step number 6?
Try to present.
Step number 7? Change. Well, let's see if you got it right. Oh! Plan, organize, create, demo, rehearse, present, and change. You've already memorized it. You passed the test. Congratulations. Huh. So these are the 7 things you have to do to put together an effective presentation that's not going to put your audience to sleep. Does that seem valuable? Whatever. I mean, if you want your career to go someplace, if you want to be successful in school, if you want to help the people who have come to you and ask for a little bit of assistance, yeah, that might be somewhat useful. But there's more to it than that, isn't there? There always is. Let's see what we got going on here. All right, I can sit here and talk to you about this whole program forever and ever, and it will over the head. So instead, let's talk about one of life's most pressing issues, shall we? Can we talk about coffee? Is it possible for us to spend just a few moments talking about coffee? So you're involved in groups. We're all involved in groups, whether it's at the office or maybe the people you live with, what have you. And I bet that you are subjected to bad coffee. Would that be correct? Or coffee that's not really Starbucks quality. Would that be fair to say? Not really all that good. Let's say that's a problem. Let's say somebody's come to you and said, hey, I would like you to make a presentation to the group about what you think our biggest problem is, and you've decided bad coffee is the biggest problem. Well, that's going to be a very important presentation, isn't it? If you get that presentation wrong, you're subject to the lifetime of bad coffee. And it'll be your fault. So, in your coffee presentation, what's your goal? Well, really, there's 3 goals. First off, you want to convince everybody that there's a problem. Look, if there's no problem, there's no time, they shouldn't spend any time solving it, right? I think everybody has too much gold in their house. All right, so be it, man, that's not a problem. All right, number 2, you've got to offer a solution. Hey, if you're just complaining about the problem and you're not presenting a solution, oh, I get that anywhere, man. There's nothing special about that. And finally, you need to get agreement from the people that you're presenting to about the next steps, right? Hey, yeah, that's a problem. Hey, I gotta go. I got other stuff going on, right? Congratulations, you've defined the problem, but you haven't really solved it. All right. Very first thing you're gonna do with this presentation, you got a plan. So what do? You sit down at your laptop, you fire up PowerPoint, you get to it, right? No, you do not do that. Step away from the keyboard. You can't be sitting down and cranking out PowerPoint. You gotta figure out what you want to do first. Remember, we already talked about the fact that there's 4 types of presentations, right? So it sure seems like the very first thing you'd like to do is figure out what type of presentation you're going to give. So what are our 4 choices? Well, you can inform, demonstrate, persuade, or entertain. For our coffee presentation, what kind of presentation are you going to give? Entertaining? Woohoo! Fun facts about coffee. No. What do you think?
Persuade.
Persuade, definitely. Maybe inform, right? Because we got to tell them there's a problem, right? So it seems like you need a little bit of a combination of inform and persuade. Hey, you want better coffee? You're going to have to work for it, right? So, if you had to put together a slide deck to support this, this would be a good first slide, right? How much information is there on this slide? None! Which is exactly what the first slide in any presentation should have. You know, for the technically minded among us, all too often, we like to pack every single slide with as much information as we possibly can. And we like to do the cardinal sin of a presentation. We like to put the answer on the first slide. I'll tell you what, guys. I'm a busy guy. I got a lot of stuff going on in my life. If I show up for a presentation and the answer's on the first slide, I can say, thank you. I got other stuff to do. Woo, I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Right? Because you already answered the question. You're just going to sit there and say the answer over and over again. So this is a perfect initial one. Now, remember, generally the way this works is that if you're having a meeting and people are coming to your presentation, this is the slide that's going to be up as they come in, right? There's no information here. It's mildly amusing, right? You think they're going to sit there and talk about it? You build a little bit of excitement about your presentation without actually giving anything away. That's interesting. Maybe that sounds like a good thing to do. Organizing what you want to say is the key to clear communications. So look, we live in a day and a time in which pretty much your audience has access to all of the information that you're going to present to them. You probably don't have, with a few exceptions, any secret information that they can't Google today. Or even worse, they can't Google from their iPhone 5 while they're sitting in the audience, right? So they're not coming to have you present them with data. That's not why they're there. The reason they're sitting in the audience, the reason that they're giving you time out of their busy day, is because they want to see what you did with the data that you took in, you processed. They want your knowledge. They want the results that you've come up with. That's the value. If you go to any bookstore today, and you bought a book about how to give a powerful and effective presentation, it's going to tell you 2 things. Number 1, you want to open up with a powerful opening to grab your audience's attention. That sounds pretty fair. Number 2, you want to have a powerful conclusion, because the last words that you say are the words that are going to be ringing in their ears when they walk away. Fantastic, great suggestions. One thing the book's not going to tell you is, well, what are you supposed to do in the middle part of the speech? That's a good question. But good news, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do in the middle part of the speech. Everything you do in the middle part of your speech has to be building up to the close. You have to be painting a picture of the problem. If your close is where you're going to tell me what the solution is, then you spend the middle part of your speech telling me what that problem is. For some of the older people in the audience, it's Colonel Mustard in the foyer with a candlestick. So how are we going to organize our coffee speech? Good question. Well, right off the bat, we're going to have a title, Solving Our Coffee Brewing Problem. Ooh, did you see what I did there? It's a sneaky one. I used the word problem in the title of my presentation. Now, if I'm giving this presentation to a technical audience, very much like yourself, when I use the magic word problem, what happens in your brain? You start thinking, ooh, how would I solve that? You can't stop it. You're going to start thinking about solutions just when you read that. Fantastic. That's exactly what I want to have happen. What are we going to do next? Well, we're going to talk about the way we make coffee today, because obviously that's the core of our problem. We're going to talk about what's going wrong. Clearly, I'm giving this presentation about coffee. Something must be wrong with the way that we're doing it. And finally, we're going to wrap up with why should we look into getting better coffee equipment. That's our closing. That's our big point that we're leading up to. Better coffee. All right? So creating a presentation is where you need to match your images with your words. So look, we live in a beautiful, wonderful age. We've got fantastic presentation systems. We've got laptop computers. I'm sure you have fantastic Keynote or PowerPoint slide creation ability. But I'm here to tell you today, when you're giving a presentation, guess who the star of the show is? Is it you or your slides?
You.
It's all about me. The slides are there to support what you're saying. So maybe you're the best slide animator in the world. Maybe you got where it flies in and it turns around and changes color. Stop doing that. It's all about you. When Steve Jobs was alive, when he would take the stage, it was all about Steve Jobs. Remember the cool slides that he showed? No, nobody remembers the cool slides that Steve Jobs showed. It was all about Steve Jobs, man. He's there. You can almost reach out and touch him. Now, when you put those slides up there, with their little twinning and spinning and stuff like that, what you're asking your audience to do is to multitask. Hey, pay attention to me and look at my really cool slides. Are you a good multitasker? Can you do multiple things at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it. You think you can. I used to think I was the best multitasker. Man, I could do like 6 things at one time. I learned differently. Let me share with you how. So there I was. I was going down the highway, and it was actually a toll road, so it was a very nice highway, by the way. I had a conference call. I was heading off to a doctor's appointment. It was like a new doctor's appointment, so I had the GPS because I wasn't really sure where he was located. But I was smarter than the average bear. Don't you hate it when you're on a conference call with somebody and you keep hearing in the background, turn left in half a mile? None of that stuff. So I had silenced the little GPS Garmin unit. It was quiet. I was on, I had the earpiece in because it was hands-free driving, thank you very much. And I was on a conference call, and even worse, so I was on a conference call, but I was actively talking on the conference call. Not just listening, I was actually leading the conference call. And anyway, I'm going down the highway, and I was late, okay, I'm always late. But I was probably going, I don't know, 60, 75, or whatever, miles an hour. And I was in the far left lane. I'm not sure why, I'm sure there's a good reason, but I was in the far left lane. And I just happened to glance at the GPS. It was weird, because obviously it hadn't said anything because I muted it, but it was telling me that I should be turning now! So you know what I did? I turned now! Now I drive a Honda Accord. A Honda Accord is a fine, reliable car. It is not a European performance sedan. So at 70 miles an hour, when you ask it to make a hard right turn, it's going to try really hard. Okay, so it gets that going for it. But it's not quite gonna make the turn. You know they have those shiny metal things on turns with like the big pieces of wood behind them? Man, I so closely almost didn't hit it. But I hit it. It's weird, because, you know, it turns out car crashes are really loud. Go figure that. And I'm sitting there going, wow, what's my airbag doing here? That's strange. Anyway, $17,000 later, I discovered I'm not a good multitasker. And your audience isn't a good multitasker either. So when you're using slides as part of your next presentation, don't ask them to make a decision between whether or not they're going to pay attention to you or your slides. Always keep the focus on you. You're the star of your show. So here's a quick example of the way we make coffee today. A typical slide I might use in our coffee presentation. Turns out you put the grounds in the basket, you add water to the machine, cook it up, serve it. Just a standard slide, like you've seen 100,000 times, right? Here's a little secret. This might make this whole presentation worthwhile for you. We'll have to see how it goes. Turns out there's a science to this. This is the way it goes. Anybody do photography? Anybody do photography? Going once, going twice? Okay. There's a thing in photography called the rule of thirds. Okay? What they do is they take an image and they divide it with 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines, or however that works out. And basically divide an image up into 9 sections. Okay? Where the lines intersect are called, interestingly enough, PowerPoints. And the PowerPoints are where your audience's eyes are naturally going to be drawn. So when you're building a slide, you need to be aware of this, and you need to make sure that you put your images where those PowerPoints are. You don't have a blank canvas. What you have, rather, is this grid structure, and you need to work the grid structure into how you put your images together. Got it? Cool. Now you got value out of the presentation. I don't care if I can say anything else going on. All right, demos. Demos are a very powerful part of any technical presentation, and I hate them with a passion. Who is this gentleman? Who is it? Bill Gates. What's on the screen behind Bill Gates? This is like 1998. I think he was rolling out like Windows, I don't know, 95 or something like that during a huge Comdex. I think it was Comdex, and they died on him, right? He's arguably the wealthiest man in the world, and he has trouble when he does demos. What chance do you have? But, you know, even I will admit that sometimes a demo is necessary. All right. So here's the key concept when you're asked or when you're required to give a demo. Make it as small as possible. I can't tell you how many demos of software packages I've had to sit through where somebody showed me how to create a new user account. Really? No, I don't care. Figure out what the #1 thing that the people want to learn from your demo. Show it to them and then move on. Do not demonstrate the whole match. Okay? Rehearsing. Hey, you know, as long as you put this presentation together, don't throw it together, get up here, and just give it, right? No need to rehearse because you're super, right? No, you need to rehearse. But my question to you is, how many times should you rehearse a presentation? 100? Okay, should you rehearse it at least once?
Yeah.
Nod. Should you rehearse it twice?
Yeah.
Excuse me, should you rehearse it twice? Thank
Yeah.
you, let's see some more nodding. Okay. Maybe 3 times, 4 times. How many times should you do it? Well, I'm going to tell you. Once again, super value. This is actually bonus value you're getting from this presentation, isn't it? The secret answer is 7. You should rehearse every presentation 7 times.
Really?
You didn't know that, did you? Well, now you do. Why 7? What's so magic about 7? Trust me, this is voice of experience here. Look, the first 2 times that you rehearse your presentation, you're going to do a lousy job of it. You're going to stumble over your words. You're going to find stuff that's done wrong. You're going to be changing it up. So that doesn't really count, okay? 3, 4, 5, those particular presentations, what's going to happen is you're going to be working on your smoothness. You're going to work on how you transition from idea to idea to idea. 6 and 7, you're going to be working to make it seem fresh, to make it seem like it's not a canned presentation. You can rehearse it more than 7 times. Trust me, you're not going to get much more value. If you can rehearse a presentation 7 times, you are ready to give it. Okay? It's going to be smooth, it's going to flow, you're going to have no problems whatsoever. The actual presentation part of your presentation isn't that big of a deal. If you've done all the work to get ready, if you've put together an effective presentation, the actual delivery of it should come off without a hitch. But there is one important thing that you need to keep in mind. Have you ever been to a comedy club? Anybody been to a comedy club? Okay, so you went to see, there's probably a headline act, right? Somebody, a big star or a star or whatever. You went, you sat down, you had your 2-drink minimum, thank you very much. And then the star came out, right? No. So who came out? Who's the first person who comes out on the stage at a comedy club? The warm-up act, right? And is that a famous person? No. It's some local, just comes out. Why are they there? Why does a comedian have a warm-up act? Because they're sort of too busy. Well, it turns out it's actually really important. The purpose of a warm-up act for a comedian is to get you laughing. Okay? Now, the warm-up act may actually not be all that funny. But that's okay, because what's going to happen is you're going to laugh at them. You're not laughing with them. You'll still be laughing at them. What happens is truly you get warmed up. You get used to laughing. So by the time the star comes out, you're ready to laugh. Star can sort of say anything they darn well please, and you'll probably laugh because you've been primed to do it. I had an opportunity to go out to Las Vegas a few years back, and as part of the trade show I was at, they had Billy Crystal come out and do a private show for us. How cool is that? But so we're in the theater, we're waiting for Billy Crystal to come out, and this screen came down. We're like, what's up with this? This is crazy. And they started to show us a movie. And this was back in the day when Billy Crystal was going to be hosting the Academy Awards. And as part of that, the Academy Awards people had put together, made this movie where they took Billy Crystal's image and he stuck them in a whole bunch of famous movies. Okay? And what it was people like Clint Eastwood and stuff like that, convincing Billy Crystal to host the Academy Awards. Like, you gotta do it, son. No, okay, I'll do it. And dunking his head in the tank and all sorts of stuff like that. It was really fun. It was Billy Crystal in a bunch of very famous movies. So we watched this movie, we all started to laugh, the screen went up, and then pow! Billy Crystal came out and he did his act. And it wasn't until like a week or two later that it dawned on me that movie had been the opening act for Billy Crystal. It had got us laughing. It had got us in the mood, and then when he came out, we were primed to laugh. Now, if you can get an opening act, a comedian to come out and present before you do your technical presentation, that's fantastic. I say go for it. You're probably not going to be able to get that to happen. So what can you do to prime the audience for your presentation? Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. Never just walk up there and start to give your presentation. Never, ever do that. Make sure you always get introduced. Okay? Dong-woo, introduce me tonight. What's really cool is he read the introduction I gave him. He said exactly what I wanted him to say. You didn't see the puppet control, did you? Okay? If you can get somebody famous or somebody really important to your audience to do your introduction, all the better. Because the glow around that person will rub off onto you. So the more important the person who does your introduction, the better for you. And if you can't get somebody important, at least get somebody to read the introduction that you handed to them. It will prime the audience to pay attention to you. Got it? Critical part. Right. Every single presentation you give is an opportunity for you to become better. What this means is that somehow you have to capture that presentation. If you can videotape it, great. Videotape it, watch it, take a look at what you did, learn and become better. If you don't have a chance to videotape it, not a problem. Get a couple of your friends to sit in the audience and to listen to it. And when you're done, go to those friends and ask them 2 questions. The first question is, what did I do right? Where was the audience nodding and laughing and going along with what I was saying? Okay? Second question is, hey, if I was going to give the presentation again, and you had to sit through it again, what would you want me to change? What would you want me to do differently the second time? If you can get those 2 pieces of information out of a presentation, then you'll have enough information to know what needs to change for the next time you give that type of presentation. All right, so we were talking about our coffee presentation, right? Got 3 goals here. Convince everybody there's a problem, offer a solution, and get agreement on the next steps. Let's see what that type of presentation would look like. That sound like a fair deal? All right, we already talked about our opening slide. It sort of looked like this. Remember how much information is there? Almost none. Almost completely devoid of information. Just exactly the way we want it. We'd go on to the next one. We know about this one. What was so special about this? It was how we arranged stuff, right? Everything is in a special spot. Now, if I recall, the third thing that we wanted to do was to actually talk about a solution. Who wants coffee when we can have lattes in the office? That would be fantastic. Now remember, these images aren't just stuck here. They're also where they need to be. You've got to put your coffee grounds in and double pack them down, run them through the machine, then you have to put your milk into the container. That's fantastic. Then you have to steam the milk, make the espresso, and then add the milk to the espresso. And pow, you've got your latte. But we've also got our images arranged in a way that your eyes are going to be drawn to exactly where I want you to be looking. Now we've done all that, so now we have to wrap it up. And this is a great final slide. Okay? There's not too much here. We've got a nice little image and stuff like that. You see at the bottom, I've got a bunch of questions. If you've ever been to one of these presentations, you know that after we're done, we just leave this slide up. And these questions are exactly what your audience can take a look at. They can create ideas in people's heads so that the discussion will start. They can start to talk about the solutions. You can have a back and forth sort of discussion between the presenter and the audience. And you can be talking about how you're going to solve your coffee problem. That sound like a fair deal? Fantastic. All right. So you can continue to give your presentation the way you do today. There's no need for you to change. Audiences won't pay attention. They'll clap politely when you're done. It's over. They won't be changed. You will have wasted your time. Or you can evolve. You can change the way you present the information. You can let the ideas that are up here in your head, you can set them free. You can share them with your audiences. And just maybe, you might change the world just a little bit every time you give a presentation. All right. So where do you go from here? Well, hopefully I've changed your lives. Hopefully you've absorbed everything that I shared with you tonight. But if you want more, I've got good news for you. I've got more to give you. I run a blog. The blog is called The Accidental Communicator. And it's chock full of presentation techniques. It has 1,001 secrets on how you can become a better presenter. Check it out. See if there's anything there for you. I guarantee you there is. And even better, more information keeps getting added weekly. And it's all free. So you can't do any better than that. That's it. I'm done. Thank you very much for your time.
Wonderful presentation. Let's give him another round of applause.
You might be asking yourself, where do I go from here? The ability to speak in public and do it well is a skill that you will use during your entire career. It sure seems like it would make sense to invest the time and energy that it takes to develop this skill. A great way to start doing this is to sign up for the free The Accidental Communicator newsletter. This monthly publication is sent to your inbox and is overflowing with tips and techniques on how you can make the next speech that you give your best speech ever. We'll cover how to write powerful speeches, techniques for speaking with confidence, how to connect with your audience so that they'll remember what you say, and we might even cover a PowerPoint slide creation tip or two. Hey, the newsletter is free, so you can't go wrong there. In the description of this video, you'll find a link that you can click on. Go ahead and click on it, and you'll be taken to a web page that will let you sign up for the newsletter. There's even a free gift in it for you when you do. Thanks for watching this video. Sign up for the newsletter, and congratulations on starting your journey to accidentally becoming a powerful and effective public speaker.